Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, Tuesday, November 7th. This is the Goffstown Budget Committee. We are going to start the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call. Lauren, do you mind kicking it off for our minute taker?
Lauren Dukas.
Melanie Renfrew-Hebert.
Allison DeCesare.
Richard Manzo.
Richie Fletcher, Village War President.
Peter Georgiantis, Selectman's Rep.
Olivia Welch-Erdahl.
Laura Stevens.
Frank Hotz. Joe Alexander.
Jared Talbot, School Board Rep. Scott Gross, BA.
Stacy Gilmore.
Brian Mazer.
Samantha Kearns.
Perfect. So, and Doug Pounds is excused. He's traveling. So at this point, I want to kick it off and continue the deliberations from last meeting. So we're on the bottom of page 30 on the notes one. So we're starting reference line 866. So I first want to ask, is this an okay process for everyone after the first meeting?
Yes.
Any feedback, or is this going okay? Okay, and any other business before we just dive into it? All right, let's kick off Maple Ave. So we'll start page 30. And page 31. Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to see if I could ask Scott. Scott and I had spoken about this earlier. I'm still having a hard time with under the salaries and the makeup of the teachers. Can you break down for me the difference between the teachers and the SEL position?
What specific line are we looking at, please?
It's infused through multiple lines, whether it's teacher salaries, benefits, FICA.
So more than likely, we're talking about line 866. So for those of you, most of you are aware of, through the presentation, about the population increases at Maple Avenue and the changes that the school board made last spring with respect to trying to deal with that. So the school board repurposed some existing positions through attrition. And with that, they included what you're alluding to, and that is, an SEL teacher. This SEL stands for Social Emotional Learning. And you could make an argument that it's also about just student behaviors, overall. This particular, and again, just for disclosure, Frank and I had a conversation this afternoon about this. So this particular teacher goes in and teaches a class, a program called Second Step, and the district has been using that for at least, it's 20 plus years. And it teaches kids about a variety of topics, from goal setting to empathy, just the right behaviors, all those types of things. So because the class sizes were high, and they still are, the administration and the school board decided to put in this SEL teacher to supplement the classroom. So this, rather than the teacher teaching Second Step, which is what in most cases, K through 8, that's what we do. In this case, there is a teacher at Maple Avenue specifically devoted to teaching the Second Step curriculum. They co-teach that with the support of the classroom teacher on a variety of Second Step lessons. They also assist the guidance counselor at Maple Avenue School, because we have the education standards say that you should have a guidance counselor for every 500 kids. We have almost 550, so this person also assists the guidance department with kids who might be going through difficult times, etc. But their primary job is to co-teach those Second Step lessons, and then to assist kids who need more guidance support in their lives. That being said, this position is part of that 866 line, and any time that we have it, like a teacher is a good example. In this particular one, you'll have teachers or paras, like you're going to see associated lines. So that'll be FICA, which is your Social Security and everything. We have to pay into the retirement system for those folks, and then if they elect to have, we have to pay workers' comp, we have to pay unemployment. If they elect for health or dental, then we pay that too. Most do, some don't. So that is that ripple effect. So typically when there's a salary line, there are 5, 6 other lines that are impacted by that. I think you asked the question about like why aren't they a standalone, teacher, and I think it's the space issue. So right now the school board has been talking for months about like what's the next steps if this population keeps going, and I think we talked about that during the presentations. It could simply be repurposing or recapturing the art and music space, which is there, and putting that back on a cart. It could be sending the kids to Mountain View. Those are the two, and or putting another portable on that site. So those are the 3 different options that I think they have before them. But I think right now they're in a holding pattern until we see what happens with the student populations. The long and the short of what we talked about.
Okay. Yeah, I just, the concern I have is with the class size. If there's 28 people in a class, one more teacher would get that down to maybe 24-ish.
Yeah,
I
and
was-
that,
It's not only about
yeah.
teachers, it's about space. We have no additional classrooms to put another teacher in a class at Maple in its current form.
Okay, so are you all set, Frank, for now?
Yeah, I'm all set for now.
Okay, I'm going to go to Laura and then Lauren.
I was just thinking during the tour, I think she said that part of this also, because I had the initial same question about let's get more classroom teachers if we're adding or moving positions. And I think she said part of this definitely was that standard of having another guidance counselor
Yeah, was
for
helping that.
a population that's only going to increase. And I think that adds into the fact why it's not a teacher in a single classroom, because it does have a huge guidance portion. That's what I understood anyway when we talked about it.
Okay. Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my same point, was even if the position went away, said, oh, we could move this teacher, you'd still be required. It's an RSA, right? Or it's
It's an education standard,
an educational standard of you'd still need that guidance position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That was my point too. Thank you.
Go ahead, Scott.
I just wanted, just administratively, I wanted to thank Frank. He contacted me, Lauren contacted me. These were questions that were pretty quick that I could get. Brian has contacted me on some questions as well over, and some people you have. I would just want to reiterate, if I can get to it, like, I think it's quick, I'm going to respond to you. I've said that forever. If I think that this is like, oh boy, my next email or call is to Joe saying, whoa, time out, this requires an action of the budget committee. So like, when I can get you something relatively quickly, that's no problem. If it's something that I think is going to take a lot of work, then I have to rely upon this body directing me through the chair to work on something for, so I just wanted to, and I appreciate this because it gives me the heads up with if I need to get one more person to get an answer from, I can do that, as opposed to scrambling, tonight with a question like I have no clue on how to respond to it. So I thank you for doing that.
Okay. Samantha, do you have something?
Yeah, just to clarify, you stayed staffing neutral across all the schools, right?
Yeah.
Okay, from last year.
Right, and the same thing, and again, I apologize if I've said this, I forget who I talk to half the time, but we've been trying to stay staffing neutral for the last couple of years. And even in my conversation with Frank, we repurposed positions from this last budget cycle to the budget that we're in right now, mostly at Goffstown High School. We brought the alt education program back in, and that's how we're able to do some of these things. Same thing, we had a special education teacher at Bartlett School that was ESSER grant funded. We repurposed a position from that alt ed and we filled it. That's currently in this budget. And then the same thing was a half guidance counselor. Same thing at Mountain View Middle School, we repurposed a position.
Okay.
So that's what our goal is to, and I know I say it all the time till I'm blue in the face, but like, we have, the needs change from year to year, and sometimes it's student-based, sometimes it's a bubble of kids that go from an elementary to a mid, so you have to kind of, it's challenging because you have to move resources around, and we're able to do it a lot of times through attrition. It could be a teacher retirement, somebody leaves, and you can kind of do that. But that's what makes the school budget a little tricky, because there is more movement than most might be accustomed to. Sorry about that.
Allison?
Can I ask a slightly unrelated question? It's related to something we talked about last time. So I just came down Wallace and I followed a bus that dropped off a girl at almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Do we have buses dropping off kids at 6 o'clock?
That I know we have what's called a late bus. So we
Okay.
have students that are both at Mountain View and the high school where they might participate in co-curricular activities,
Yep.
sports, et cetera, and there is a late bus.
Okay, so it wasn't just a kid who was just getting home from school? It's
No,
'cause they-
no,
okay.
no.
That's what I wanted to know. I wasn't sure.
Thank goodness.
Okay, that seemed awful.
That'd be quite the contract.
That would be, yeah,
So would I.
that'd be an issue.
Most kids would too.
It'd be
Okay,
a bad
thanks.
day.
All right, gonna keep going. Page 32. Page 33. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm not sure, this is a row or reference 910. What's electronic information?
So if you look over in the notes section, that's our new reading curriculum that we're going to be rolling out.
That wasn't in the right row, but okay.
No, it's right, yeah, so the note sections are basically supporting the line.
Okay.
Has a number in it.
All right.
And I should reiterate for Brian, for your clarification, the notes are really designed for me, people who administer the budget. So there might be a typo. Sometimes the note amounts don't add up, so I had to make, people have made that correct. So I'll go in and I'll correct that, because the
Okay.
schools pretty much update the notes piece. But, so just so you know that sometimes that could happen.
Okay.
So-
Thank you.
Go ahead, Stacey.
I do have a question. So last week I asked this question similarly on the other, essentially this program costs a lot of money and it's added up for each school. I hadn't noticed that it was the same program in every school,
Yeah.
which had a
Yeah.
different portion of it.
It's your
This is like
reading.
100 and something thousand.
It's your reading curriculum.
So is this the required curriculum that we had to follow, or is this sort of chosen?
Chosen.
That we-
So the school administrators, they also work with staff, and they determine, what is the, for lack of a better term, what's the preferred reading curriculum. We do the same thing, whether it be a math curriculum, et cetera. So the math curriculum is being funded, just in case you don't know, by ESSER funds. So we are, those of you, I'm looking at Richard, I don't know if you had to do the everyday math thingy, but that's kind of going away. And there's a new math program, but that's all grant funded. This is your reading program, which is K through 8.
Mr. Chair, can I follow up? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what was the program we were using before?
I don't.
Because there's no money in the budget for it, so did we not?
No, what happens is you.
It's on a cycle. So
Yeah.
every,
Yeah.
I think 7 or 8 years, we update the curriculum, which requires new software, new licensing, new books.
That's why it's
potentially.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I'm
there's,
sorry, I don't know the name of it.
just to clarify, there's no reduction in the lines.
No.
What do you mean by reduction?
So there was nothing in the default about a reading curriculum that was already in there?
Correct.
Right.
So
Okay.
if for some reason that we were going on the default budget, then we would try to use the same material that's outdated.
So what happens is you're buying a certain number of years of a curriculum, and you're buying that essentially upfront. So sometimes what happens is, like in this math curriculum, and it's escaping me if it's 3 or 4 years, but we won't have to worry about that with the exception of consumables, the workbooks and things. That's the only thing you'll have to pay, but everything else is kind of front-loaded. And then it's more money, the more years you want, the more it costs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we won't see this line again for another 7 years. We won't see this giant.
It's not 7.
Whatever
Oh.
the cycle is. I
Yeah.
just use that as a.
You don't know what the length is?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
I honestly don't. I know it's a minimum of 3, I just don't know if it's,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, we're going to continue. Move into special ed, Maple Ave, 33.
I'm going to try to get you that answer.
Thank you.
34. Okay. 35.
I have the answer for Stacy. It is the 3 years. I apologize, it's K through 6. And the total cost is 105. Hold on, I just lost my, 106. The shipping and handling. $106,972.46 across the different schools.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
So the consumables we'll pay for next year in the next budget. What is that?
That, oh boy, I just X'd out of it. They do, I have to see if Wendy Kohler is our assistant superintendent, and a lot of times she's able to negotiate to get those consumables, so, hold on, I'm seeing if.
I'm okay if you even have Wendy put together some sort of information email
Yeah.
sent to the committee. So we still have another meeting too. We're going to go to 35 and 36. Do you know, Jared, do you know what the actuals are for the certified mail on special ed notices? Do you know?
Sounds like a
'cause
question
that's
I had.
That's a big jump,
What
so I was
line?
curious. I'm going back to 34, but I was going at 961.
This was Lisa Johnson. She's the assistant principal who deals with special ed. I could have sworn that she said that we had new requirements where we had to send out certified letters, I thought. Didn't she say that during the presentation? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, because
It
it has to do
says
with
it in her
IEPs and being sent back and forth, but historically, we've had actuals around $250.
450, you said?
250. The actuals for 2021 was 250, 2022 was 250, 2023 was 250. And then, it's electricity. We don't have it in our notes.
Yeah, it wasn't in there. And then it's I mean, when we look at $50 million, it's $1,500, but I guess I'd like to know if there is a new requirement, what that looks like.
We get some additional information on that for you then.
That sounds great. Okay, so we're on 36. 37.
Joe, do you want your answer on the curriculum materials, or you want it now?
Yes.
All right. So the curriculum, the materials will
For Wonders.
cost. What?
Wonders reading?
Wonders
Yeah.
Reading will cost between $3,000 to $4,000 per grade level. I know that that's a challenge. So at Glen Lake, for example, that's an easy one, it's just kindergarten. But for the first grade, you'll have Bartlett and Maple Avenue, and then you'll have to split those based, proportionately, because what we got in the first year was we got the curriculum, and then they also threw in student workbooks for the first year. And those student workbooks are an average of $3,000 to $4,000 per grade level. Again, so more than likely, let's just use 4,000, you'll see a $3,000 per grade level at Maple and $1,000 at Bartlett roughly for your Wonders consumables in the next 2 budget cycles.
Okay, so the 47,000 increase is going to go down to about 40,000.
Well, what'll happen is it
next year.
won't show up in
It's a
that
different
particular line.
It'll
It'll show up in a consumables line, yeah. And we see the same thing in math too, because we buy the curriculum, but then the kids use workbooks that they take home, and then it's their workbook essentially for both the reading Wonders and the math.
Go ahead, Stacy.
I want to clarify what you just said, because when I asked the question, I thought you said we weren't going to pay that 44,000, like these base numbers, again, for 3 years, we'll pay the consumables. So
Correct.
you just said it as it's going to drop to 40 next year. No, it's
No, it's going to drop
40.
40. It would just move around,
4,000,
but
right?
Yeah.
It's going to
It
go
would
from
drop to
47.
zero. That line item would drop to zero.
Because the consumables will
And
be
then
another
another line
line
item has a.
of just 4,000, not of 40,000. Okay,
Correct.
the way you said that, just, sorry.
I was kind of doing some mental
Okay.
gymnastics there. Allison, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just considering, so on next year's default budget, then would those consumables fall into the default budget?
Not necessarily. It would be
I know it's a new line.
part of whatever the line is right now. So no, it would not.
So potentially, if we went to the default budget next year, we would not have the consumables that the kids need to run the new program we spent 100 and whatever thousand.
Again, I would have to
on.
look at whatever line that it is. So
Yeah.
like, if that line had the ability to absorb that $3,000 or $4,000 cost, there's no discussion. It's
Right.
it's already included. But
Right.
if it did not have the ability, then in my interpretation of the default budget, it's new spending,
Yeah,
and it would show up in the new column. Again, that's just interpretation of. the
yeah, no, I was just
default.
curious, because it's a little frightening to spend that much for a new program and not be able to get the workbooks you'd need to use it next year.
I understand.
Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Chair. Scott, could you comment to 1094? Difference doubled. The assistant principals.
Is that the new dean?
That is for all of the assistant principals that we have within the organization. So that would be not only Ms. Johnson, but the dean of students that
Yeah.
walked us around the building.
Yeah, so if you, just as a recap, when the school board was pretty clear at this time last year that with the Maple Avenue situation, that they were probably going to have to repurpose positions to deal with Maple Avenue. They did a couple of things. One, they put another administrator there, so they repurposed a position, and they called it a dean of students to deal with the fact that we have over 550 kids. And then the other one was this SEL teacher to try to deal with the high, the class sizes. So those were the two things. So they repurposed that, and that's what you're seeing in that the line that you just mentioned, Brian.
So they're not new positions, or they?
That is
Transfer.
It's a transfer of a position from one school to another.
Okay. But yeah, there's a doubling.
Yeah, and that's for that reason.
So what happened, Brian, on a later line, probably in the high school, you'll see a reduction of
Okay.
an amount.
Yeah.
For that same job that migrated to the elementary.
You're just
school.
transferring money. Okay.
Exactly. That's
All
why
right.
it's not showing up as new, it's still default, because the person is employed
Right.
by the school district.
All right.
And
Thank you.
not to belabor it, it's sometimes difficult because where these teaching positions are, they're all in different, it could be a special ed line, it could be in so it's, but what we do is we hold true to the FT, to that full-time equivalent. So I just want to, Frank, when you and I talked, I'm like, all these teaching positions are in that regular ed line where there's a lot of them. That SEL teacher is part of that. So I know it's a little confusing, but I just wanted to clarify that sometimes they're lumped together.
The recipe.
It's just staffing that moves around. So.
Right, we're going to go to page 39. Page 30. 40.
You had me confused there.
I'm going backwards.
All right.
Page 41. Page 42 will wrap up Maple Ave. Any questions, Maple Ave? Go ahead, Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not in Maple Ave, but I forgot to start the meeting. Last week, I had asked a question about line 106. There was a $95,000 increase in one of the lines that I didn't have
Yeah.
an answer for. Do you know the answer
Yes,
now?
I do.
Okay.
I apologize, I probably should have started off with that one. So, again, this is another, I circled it, it's another one of these repurposed positions. I spoke with our HR director about that. I believe it is Goffstown High School, if not, it's Mountain View Middle School. But what it is that this is a position that is going to oversee what's called, behavioral support. We have positions that are called BCBAs, or we have contractors who do it. There's also registered behavioral RBT therapists, I'm trying to think. So we are looking to repurpose a position so that we have someone who kind of oversees this for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost is that we are paying an ungodly amount of money right now for contracted services. That's one, in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $160,000. Secondly, we have RBTs who need supervision. We don't have a person who can do that, and therefore we are forfeiting the ability to get reimbursements through the government, through Medicaid. So with those things, that we're taking a position, I think it's the high school, and we're going to make it a district position who this person will then be able to handle mostly Mountain View, but also now have their footprints at the elementary schools as well. We do have enough support with our Dean of Students and other guidance counselors here at the high school to deal with those behavioral issues, but it's really more Mountain View, and our elementary schools are the ones that have seen a lot more behavioral issues than we've had in the past, ever since COVID.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, on row, was it 1184, there was a reduction in propane, and that was for Maple. But I noticed in other schools, there was an increase
Yeah.
in high school, so is that based upon utilization of propane?
It is utilization, so we track, so there's a couple of things. One, we put in mostly new windows. We used ESSER grant funds to replace most of the windows at Maple Avenue and Bartlett. And from that, we saw a decrease in the propane usage
More
to heat the
efficient,
building.
yeah.
Second thing that we have seen, and is here at Goffstown High School, ever since COVID, like, this building is being used like 24/7. I mean, they're using it 7 days a week, you know, just, it's used all the time. We're still, I mean, I know it's challenging to determine the propane usage, because for 2.5 years, we had windows open, you know, trying to deal with airflow. We had issues when and the heat was going out the window. So we're trying to balance that out now that we're not really utilizing all those protocols. So that's why, like, the high school, you'll see an increase, but in the case of Maple,
Yeah.
it was the result of better window insulation where we're seeing energy savings.
All right, cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Olivia?
I just had a question about line 1105. What was the huge increase for the Maple teacher retirement?
Contracted services.
Okay.
So the CBA that was approved by the voters, it's part of their retirement package to have those monies put in place. That's why it's in the default.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to Glen Lake, which is location 103. So at this point, we'll start on, I'm lost, we'll start on page 42, right at the bottom. And 43. If it's about 1248, that's the Wonders reading, if that was, I just looked it up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks. My question's on, for line 1233. I noticed that for some of the schools we're leasing iPads and some of them were purchasing iPads. Is there a reason behind that?
No. I wish I knew the answer to that, but I sometimes wonder the same thing. A lot of times we'll buy them when we can use a grant, and then depending upon the circumstance, I know at Glen Lake, they leased them versus buying them, but I don't really know.
Is it because the kids are like rougher on them or something? I mean, like they're younger.
I don't want to I don't,
that they would, like, drop
yeah, I don't, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry to usually have an answer on this one.
That's okay.
No.
It just seems like it's cheaper to lease them.
And you get the latest one.
Yeah.
I want you to remember that conversation in a couple of weeks.
Which conversation?
The one that she just said, or the statement she just said.
I'm nervous.
Oh, I got you. It's a little slow in the draw.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you said, is it about 1248? Are you going to ask about 1248?
1248 is the Wonders reading curriculum.
Oh, it is,
I just
'cause
looked
it's
it
not
up.
in the note either. Because it
is in our book.
It's in our packet.
It's in the next.
Yeah, it's off
It's
by,
on the next page.
It's on the
go down 2 more rows.
Oh, underneath.
Page 43, bottom
Underneath
page
AV
43.
materials.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, page 44. Page 45. And page 46. Page 47. Page 48. Scott, is every teacher in the district getting, like, principal, what's the percent increase we typically give our administrators every year?
We have a 3%
I know
pool.
it's 3% is typically
Pool
the,
in the budget for all of our administrators.
And it depends upon the market. So HR does a market analysis in terms of where they're at. It's also, part of it is performance-based as well, but it is also driven by market. So if we see that a particular principal is like way below what most principals are, for that particular, like elementary or middle, et cetera, then they may see more than that 3% in terms of but that's done on a, I don't know, not ad hoc basis. It's not done, Kate does it every couple of years. She looks at that competitiveness to make sure that we're in line with other districts.
Okay. Page 49. Page 50. Page 51. Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question 1457 and 1459, I see two decreases. Are those also in regard to the windows and cost savings measures?
No.
Interesting.
So honestly, so the electricity, there is a number that I have been chasing in terms of trying to predict. So for those of you who don't know, when we added that modular classroom, that is all electricity, and it was hot, so we budgeted more. Then, so I've been chasing this thing for 3-4 years now, but if I see a trend where I think it's lower, and plus I tried to, when we prepared this budget with the school board, the administration, like if we could reduce a line, given the circumstances, we did.
Right.
So those were, as Brian said before, I mean, if we had an opportunity to lower it, we did. I mean, there's other things we had to increase because of the actual. So I'm just trying to be fair in terms of the numbers are leaning in one direction, we're reducing it. Right. They're leaning in other directions, but that one in particular is a bit of annoyance to me because I've been chasing that number up and down. I kind of look foolish in a way because I thought it would go in a certain way and it didn't. But next year we'll be talking about an increase probably. So,
Okay. So that's just a function of estimation and...
But you can't, it's hard to we track all of our propane gallons used at each building, same thing, kilowatt hours at all of our schools, but it's all over the board sometimes, you can't explain it.
Where's your salary line? It seems like we might need a new business administrator.
Okay, just let me know when, so.
Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I just lost it, you guys.
I have it on my budget with actuals. It's 1061 over here. Where the heck did it go? It was building maintenance. Aha, 1433. So FY23 was 26,000. FY '24 is 14, but we're asking for 1495 new. And in the notes, it just says an increase in building maintenance based on actuals, but your actuals on 2023 were like 17,000, so the budget line actually looks like it went down from your actuals, but you have 1,500 of new spending.
Yeah, so again, let me just, I'm going to bring up my, my notes here on that. 20.
Because it's like a new thing that's not replacing, it's in addition that you have to call it new spending?
Hold tight. That would be 1433, right? 431?
Yep.
Just give me 1 second.
I don't want to like hold everything up, but.
Yeah, no,
No,
it's
it's
good.
a good catch.
So what happened there is our actuals were 17,592 in '03 against a budget of
6,505.
Correct. And then our budget now was 14,455, and we're going to 15,950, and that is again just a realization that you know, on these types of things, this is where we think we're gonna,
Okay.
where we think we're gonna land. Sometimes we get something from the state, and like, oh, you have to do like this test, and
Yeah.
and then it spikes it in a given year, and then we don't have to do it again for another 3 years. And some of them they're done every year.
Yeah, because this
So-
line was all over, like in 2021, obviously, the COVID years, it's like
I-
a 6,000, 4,000, 26,000,
Yeah,
so I couldn't
I think
quite.
that one might have been the cistern, maybe, is when we had to
Just
do
some
that one, right?
wacky stuff.
At Glen. Remember we had to replace that cistern tank? It was like $10,000 to replace that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're wrapping up Glen Lake at the bottom of 50, or top of 52. So any other comments on 52?
I just want to get something in the minutes.
Go ahead,
if I
Scott.
could. Disclosure-wise, since we're at both schools. Last night, the school board approved a tuition increase at the Glen Lake Kindergarten School for role model preschool students. It was a 30% increase. It has not been increased in the last 5 to 6 years, and since the budget has gone up about that percent, that's what the board voted last night. So again, wanted you to know that. And as we segue into Mountain View Middle School, last night the board authorized the expenditure of $65,000 to replace a failing rooftop heating air conditioning unit that services the library media center using the capital reserve fund. So that has a 3 to 4 month window to get installed, and we have to kind of jump on that one, and hopefully we can hobble through this winter with that existing unit. But I did want you to know that's what happened last night.
And Jared, can you, oh, go ahead. I'm switching over. Go ahead, Melanie.
Quick question, Scott. Thank you, Chair. Do you know how many students that impacts, how many model students we have? Just an approximate, we don't want to do any disclosure stuff.
If you give me 38 seconds, I can.
I'll give you
answer that.
40 because you're
Oh.
being kind.
Okay, it's in my notes from
Please take your time.
the school board meeting.
Jared, while we're doing that, could you please give the committee an update? Was there discussion by the school board regarding the transportation line conversation that we had last meeting? Can you kind of give us a synopsis of that conversation, and were you able to communicate with them that there were some on the committee that didn't necessarily think that a separate contract was the good way to go?
The synopsis was, the budget committee had questions on the school bus.
Okay.
They didn't like that we had a memorandum of understanding. And then we talked about stipends.
Okay. Like,
That's basically the synopsis.
okay, I wasn't sure, I didn't hear much about it, so.
Yeah.
My time, ready?
Ask the chair.
Yes, Scott, it's your turn.
Right now, we have 67 role model preschool, and that is a rolling enrollment, just so you know. It's projected in Kathy's budget presentation to be upwards perhaps of 90, so that's the impact.
Where does the tuition for a role model fall into with, like, the tuition for a standard private preschool? Is it right in line, or is it higher, or is it lower?
We compared against other towns, but we didn't go out to other private preschools because we have no idea if they have certified teachers
Right.
conducting
No, I'm
their
just
training.
curious.
Yeah, so we looked at,
We looked at Merrimack.
we looked at.
Londonderry.
Londonderry, Merrimack, Bedford, and Salem. Those are the ones. And then I also did a comparison with what the Y charges for their after-school program, in terms of what this was more of a comparison for after-school type care. So with this, we're going to be, in terms of the pricing, we're going to be a little on the high side at 30%. That being said, a lot of these districts have not looked at theirs in 3, 4, 5 years as well, so you're probably going to see these all bump up as well.
Okay. Olivia?
With the comparison to the other districts, are those to half-day programs as well, or are those to full-day programs?
It is half-day programs, and there are some that we're trying to compare. Some of them have 2-day programs, 3-day, and 4-day programs, so they all range. So in terms of what they offer, some of these offer like a discount if there's multiple students, twins, things like that. So we didn't go in that granular, so.
Okay, thank you.
where we're at.
Okay, so we are moving to Mountain View Middle School, page 52. Page 53. Page 54.
What was it on 54 again? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Peter.
What was it on 54 in the electronic information where it was 1717, and it says future year 10, but then FY went back up to proposed 27. What added on 17,000? Or is that just added on 10,000? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's that, although the Wonders reading curriculum, that is a $25,000 cost, but there was something else that dropped off. So that was like a one-time, I think it was like a one-time expense. Let me just see here, 642, hold on one second. I know something dropped off, and then it didn't have as much of a impact. The reading curriculum didn't have much of an impact at Mountain View because something else dropped off. 642. Have to get back to you on that one, or I might be able to find it, but.
Scott, would that have anything to do with the credit or negative number on replacement equipment of 8,000?
No, I don't think it does. I just think I'm gonna have to run a report for that particular budget code, but I think what happened was there was something that was we're no longer using for electronic information, and because we had a savings of about $15,000, it was less of an impact to the new column. So to get to the $25,000 that's needed for that that curriculum. I just have to run a report and I'll be able to tell you what that was.
All set, Peter?
Yep, I'm fine. We're just gonna run a report, we get back to it.
55. Go ahead, Sam.
Line 1584, it's the MVMS Special Education Health Insurance. I realize it's health insurance, but it's just increased almost $200,000. Did we just have like a lot more people getting health insurance?
No, they increased the rate by 18%.
And it could be. I mean, so,
Right, like
not to
I
contradict
some
Jared,
people-
but, so what happens is that we budget based upon our current staffing, and that current staffing and all of those elections rolling into the next year. And then you have employee turnover, and all of a sudden, like a teacher that you hire, it's no longer, say, a single plan, now becomes a family. So we saw that phenomena in New Boston this current year, where, you know, we had a lot of folks who went upward. They went up in a plan from single to two-person, from two-person to family. It's all good things in their life, probably.
Right.
But sometimes we're more used to seeing the opposite, where it goes from family to two-person, or, you know, this one in New Boston, it went the other way. And you can have that same phenomenon happen at any given school, where you hire, you know, if you hire a teacher who's retiring, who might be on a family plan, and then you're thinking that you might get a younger teacher who's single plan, and then all of a sudden you hire another one with family plan, you know, it doesn't, it impacts things.
Okay.
Joe?
Go ahead, Peter.
Scott, do you have an opt-out program with the school?
Not for, I think administrators, yes. Not, I don't think for, I have to check our CBAs, I don't think so. For our teachers and our support staff, I don't think we do.
I have a follow-up.
Go ahead, Sam.
Did all the other health insurance lines increase this dramatically and I just missed it?
No,
Okay.
it's probably, this could just be exacerbated by changing staff who then had different plan changes.
Okay.
It
And
can
also,
happen.
Mountain
And-
View has a lot more teachers than the other schools.
Yeah,
Okay.
in terms of a dollar amount. So you might see the same exact phenomena at the high school, because you have, you know, the high school and the middle school have the highest number of teachers.
Right.
Okay, we're continuing on 55. Jared, this may just be like a comment on my end, but I feel like we spend a lot of money on different New Hampshire associations. And I'm just looking at music educators, for instance, like, you know, $150. But we're getting, like, I just looked at the conference and it costs them money to go to the conference anyways, and, you know, you can get updates online. So I guess I'm wondering, like, has the school board looked into all these different, like, organizations that we're funding and what benefit it brings to the education of the students?
Joe, can you say a line for that? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a lot of lines, but 1568 reference line, I'm looking at that, but, you know, on the previous page, there's Association of Middle-Level Educators, National Council of English Membership, National ELMS Membership. It just seems like, I'm wondering what these organizations do to better the education of the students in families in Goffstown. So I guess I'm wondering, I hope the school board looks into these and vets them all.
Yeah,
It's not really our purview, but.
I know that when we go through the budget process, the school board, I'm usually asking those questions. So that's why I kind of giggle when you see me smiling, because a lot of the questions that you have, and I say you as in the team, I've already kind of asked. So I'm like, I'm glad we're on the same page on a lot of this. But to be at a high level answer on this, it's like any membership certification that anybody has in their professional career. What do you get from that? Well, you get conference information, yeah, that's nice to have, but you get training material. This is for us to be able to better develop our skills, ongoing learning, you know, be those lifelong learners through these associations. So whether it's a principal association, how to be a better principal, how to have better activities, how to be a better individual, how we implement it. That's where a lot of this comes from, is just additional knowledge that we can use as lifelong learners. Just like for me, as a project management professional and having that certification, I get webinars I can consume on demand that hopefully makes me a better individual, a better project manager, a portfolio manager. But that's kind of the generalized way. If you want to be specific about a certain thing, we could definitely come back to you on that, Joe, or anybody else. But generally, that's why we use these certifications. They're important not just to have them, but they're important so that we can continue our learning and then apply that learning as we move forward.
Anything else on 55? We go to 56.
I have Peter's answer.
Go ahead, Scott.
So Peter, on that particular line, it was budgeted at $17,000. That included our math curriculum for the electronic version of the math curriculum. Because we're going to use grants for that monies is not needed in this particular budget cycle, so that's being then, those funds are being used then to offset the 25,000 in the wonders. So that's how that was the answer to that. Okay? Does that make sense?
You have offsetting grant monies to offset what was in there.
You got it.
Okay.
Right.
And then you increase the line for the new program, more or less.
Correct, to get to that, to buy the curriculum for the wonders. And then next year, that line will go down because we purchased it for 3 years. So we're buying
The grant will still be there? Or?
You'll see some money in there, but you're probably only going to see a couple of $1,000, $2,000 or $3,000. You're not going to see 27. Because 25 of that is related to this curriculum digital curriculum purchase for 3 years.
Okay, page 56. And page 57.
I have a question about 16.
Go ahead, Samantha.
Thank you. 1640. So I realize this is like co-curricular general supplies. Is it specifically the drama department that we're cutting like $1,300 from?
We're not.
Because I guess in 23, it was $1,956. And then for 24, it's 600, and then for 25, it's 600.
It was something that when we did our budgets, they weren't spending what their budget amount was, so we reduced it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Laura.
Line 1648, and I guess the few surrounding lines. Is that so all students that participate can attend with no cost, or is that the cost of us? Well, I guess what does that get us, and does that mean students don't have to pay for these things?
So,
like for the festivals.
I think this is for what is the anticipated the number of students that would attend that festival.
Okay.
Yeah. We run into some issues when more, which is a good thing, when more kids qualify, but that's on average what we think it'll be. And then on like some of them, like Destination Imagination, that's like their team or school registration. The kids who participate in that still have to pay a fee to participate in Destination Imagination. This just covers the registration fee.
Also, Laura.
Yeah, thank you.
Page 58. Go ahead.
Thank you. and I guess this again applies to multiple lines, the basketball timer scorekeepers, supervisor, track and field supervisor, are these teachers that get a stipend? I
No.
mean, not the
No.
timer score.
No.
It's an outside.
People who are assigners are typically folks that are in different parts of New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
And their job is to assign referees or officials for games. And so they get the schedules from the schools, and then they have a list of people who want to officiate, and then they coordinate that schedule. And they get paid a fee by all schools to do that.
Okay.
But they're not people on our staff, at least I'm not aware of any. I think most of them are just people in the New Hampshire
Who do
athletic
this as a-
community. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 59. And 60. $61. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to page 60, row 1738, or sorry.
Yeah, if you go into your packet on page 35, this is a repurposed position.
Okay, repurpose, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Anything else on 61? We'll go to 62. $63.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
sorry. Can you go back to that?
62?
62, yeah.
Yep.
Line 1781, I don't see it in our notes anywhere what that 10,000 is about.
Sure. It was part of, I thought we presented it. We had two different, what's called Gale subscriptions. These are mostly research databases for middle and high school students. We had two separate accounts, and we found that it was less expensive to have one combined district account. But in order to do that, well, when we did it, we found that Goffstown High School paid almost the entire bill, so this is housekeeping. So if you look at line number 2424, which is the high school media line, you're going to see a reduction of 8716 to kind of offset that. So this is largely housekeeping to assign the cost to where they should be.
Go ahead, Jared.
And just to follow up, because I asked the same question, is, well, how many times do we actually use a subscription? And it was in the thousands
Oh, wow,
that
okay.
people had logged in.
I've always found in high school those databases were really valuable in middle school. I'm going to go Lauren and then Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just from the noteworthy change from the presentation, was this number originally presented to us at 7,000?
Yeah, then the school
So
board
that's the
bumped
same
it
one.
up, right,
Thank you.
because
Okay.
it was not the right amount. so.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Sam.
That was my question.
Great. Okay, anything else on page 63?
Just one question.
Go ahead.
When it says, if you just go to the top line, where it says Office of the Principal, Assistant Principals, how many people does that include?
2, right?
No.
3.
3?
Can you just give me the line, Peter? on that?
Sure, it's
1800.
reference 1800.
Okay.
Function 2410.
That is 3 people. It's your dean of students, your assistant principal, and your special, not your, is it your facilitator?
Curriculum coordinator?
Curriculum coordinator, I'm sorry, yeah, right. Yeah, it's right there in the notes, yeah.
So who was that in there? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's your curriculum coordinator,
Yeah.
your assistant principal, and your dean of students. There's 3 folks there.
Okay, 63, anything else? Go to 64. Sixty-five.
Can I just, sorry.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Sure. Back to 64. Those lines down there about St. Anselm's, what is that the high
I believe
school?
it's the sound system in their
Yeah.
graduation ceremony.
Graduation is there.
This came up a few years ago. We just
Okay.
started funding that.
Yeah,
Sound
so,
system.
we have gone back to St. Anselm College. We were doing graduations and promotional exercises at Fisher Cat, Stadium, or Delta Dental, whatever it is now. But the weather, it's tricky with the weather if it rains. So it's back to St. Anselm, and St. Anselm, we have to rent more, like a sound system and more audio-visual stuff. Because we partner with the Goffstown High School graduation of high school, we have them, the middle school one is right before the high school, so they share those expenses.
Okay, thank you.
So is the high school going back to St. A's too?
Yeah.
Go
They're
Hawks.
kind of, they're combined, what I'm trying to say is we do them together because there's such cost benefits to do it that way.
Okay, page 65. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is row 1878. Gets encompassing all the way down. So I'm assuming that the increase is based upon all these inspections, the rates going up, and it rolls up to that increase?
Yes. And what we asked of our facility director was every year we seem to get tacked on with more and more type inspections. So lately it's been more water testing, and we've had where you had to do something once every 3 years. Now you have to do it once every year. But what Randy, has done is he's listed out. Randy Loring is our facilities director, in case you haven't met him. But these are the necessary inspections and maintenance that has to happen. And what we've seen is that our actuals are just, if you look at the actuals, it has just been, we're trying to keep up with all of this stuff. And like you said, the prices from these trades, especially on the.
Scott, if I may.
Yeah.
So if you go to the actuals booklet on page 60, it's reference line 1362. You'll see our actuals for this line for repairs. $78,620 for 2021. 2022, our actuals were $76,609. Actuals for 2023 was $174,855. So this is one of those situations where we have empirical evidence that we're spending more than our budget. We thought it best to increase our budget to encompass all that information.
What row was that?
So if we go on page 60, so this is the actuals. The
On
others.
60.
Yeah, and it's the fourth line down, so it's 1362.
All right.
That was for the repairs, and I just realized that we're talking maintenance.
Yeah, talking
Yeah.
about this, but the story is still.
Same thing.
It's very similar. What we're seeing is, especially in the areas of fire suppression, sprinkler systems, it's, we're paying a lot. The rates on those are very much similar to plumbing, and they're charging well over $100 an hour to fix, or to inspect and fix sprinkler systems, things like that. So,
I'm confused, and I'm sorry to cut in on this. I'm seeing a discrepancy, Scott. So if we look between the notes and then the actuals.
yeah.
So on page 66 with the notes, we have a new of $2,550. And if we look on the budget with actuals, line 1362, we're seeing $22,550 as the new spend. So they're
Are they crisscrossed?
No, because basically the proposed budget is 70,500, and in here you say your proposed budget is 50,500.
I just want to make sure that, like, I'm just looking, when I look this up, so we've got the 431 line, right, which is your maintenance line.
So
right, which is it, let's stick with that one.
Let's stick with repairs,
Okay.
which is a 432
Two
line.
okay. Yep.
Oh, wait a minute, am I messed up?
No, that's right.
No, that's right. Go right
true.
That
across,
was
it
the
says
account.
Well, this is brand new money that we've
70,500.
never discussed, so it wasn't in the presentation either. So this 22,000 is brand, so you actually raised, their budget went up another 22,000 from what you guys presented to us in the
Yes,
presentation.
Correct.
to match our actuals that we've had.
Right, that was a school board
So this came in
change.
after, so
Yes.
they were not, okay.
Correct.
So the school board made the motion, but the thing is that the lines are different in the new section, right? Am I reading this right?
I'm going to check in a second for you.
You're looking at
You are correct.
1898?
You are correct.
So
Yes,
we-
that was an omission on my part, so it should not be, it should be 22,060, okay? You are correct.
On 1878?
On line, no.
On
line thir-
1890
Hold on,
on-
please, let me, I think I know where we are. So what Jared is referring to is on the notes section, okay? And on the notes section, and this would be on page 65, okay? Line number 1878. The school board added $20,000 to that line. However, on line number 1361 of your printout, that I did not update that with the addition. So it only says $2,060, and that should be changed to $22,060. And then the new number is 50.
No,
1362.
the repairs line, 1362. Eric, just give me a moment.
All right.
Well, I think Scott's right. The account number is 431 versus
You're in the wrong,
432.
you're in a different line.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So it might be both lines, I'm just going through,
Let's start with the repairs,
Right.
that's what I was talking about.
yeah,
22,
yeah.
and we had 2,550. So that one
Right.
needs to be.
Yeah, both of them were. So
Okay.
I did not,
Updated
I
for the
forgot to update both, that one and the other one.
So can we let the board know, or provide the board with the actual, the correct numbers?
The,
Is it on the note sheet or is it on the actual sheet? Is it correct?
the correct number is on the notes section. Okay?
The 22,060.
2,500 is the correct number?
So,
So the maintenance line on the note sheet is correct? And the budget proposed with actuals for the repair line is correct. So he updated one on each sheet, he didn't update both sheets, is what it comes down to. So let's stay with the notes section. The notes section is correct for line 1878. That is the correct new spending, and that is the correct proposed budget number that we're asking for. So that's $22,060 for the new, and the proposed is $57,750. Now, if we go to page 66 on the notes section, the new is listed at $2,550. That is incorrect. That should read $22,550. And the proposed budget would then increase to $70,500. And both of those changes were based on the actuals that we had from the prior years to increase our budget to match our actuals.
I'm going to go, Stacy, then Lauren. Go ahead.
So we've raised both sections by $22,000.
you only raised the 432 line, the budget did, the school board did.
So which one?
I have my notes here. So the 431 line was not changed by the school board. The 432 line was, just so you, that's what
Okay,
I'm
so
seeing.
tell us what we need then, because I have it wrong.
It's okay. So I just want to make sure.
Go ahead,
Let's go
Scott.
back to 431. What's that
Exactly. I want to go to
supposed
431. So the 431 line, I see what I did. I put it in the wrong line. So the bottom line number is correct. So the 431 line, the error that is made there, it should be a $2,060 increase.
Gotcha.
Okay, on page 65, line 1878, okay?
Say the number again, 2,000 what?
2,060, okay? Which means it's a 37,750 total, okay?
Okay.
I apologize for that. Now, going to page 66, this is where I made the boo-boo. So that should have been on that, so this is line number 1898, building repairs. That should have been 22,550, okay? For a total of $70,500. I have it right here, Jared.
No,
I did a recap.
I'm looking at Stacy because I thought that's what I said, but.
Did you say that? Maybe you did.
I think you increased both of them.
The video will show it if Jared.
Yeah, we good.
So can I just follow up now, my question?
Yes.
So we've only gone up 24,000 within these two lines, not 40,000 like we originally.
Correct.
Thank you.
Sorry about that,
That's
guys.
Lauren, did you have something?
All good, Mr. Chair.
All set. All right. So the drama's over. We're gonna go to
or is
page 67. Olivia, is that your hand raised or no?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm
It's
just
right
curious. 68. Yes, looks like it. Okay, anything else for the middle school, location 204? Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, never mind. Thanks for my own question. Never mind.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the high school. Page 6, top of page 68, that's location number 305. Anything for page 68? Page 69. Page 70. Page 71. Page 72.
So just while we're here, I did get an inquiry, and Laura, not to put you on the spot, but, you know, one of the questions you asked was, what are some of the things that staff, administrators wanted that was cut? A lot of it was at Goffstown High School, so there was like furniture here that was cut. Another, we want to be on a cycle with our computer labs. So we have different computer labs. We wanted to replace 2 of them. We cut of new spending, and we reduced that. They were Promethean boards that are over there. We need to get on a replacement cycle with that. We cut about $15,000 of Promethean boards out of the budget across different schools. So those were just a handful of things. And then there were, oh my God, there must have been 20 to 30 increases in supply lines or this or that. But I didn't, when I reviewed it, I didn't see that the actuals supported it. And also, given the fact of how this budget is, we reduced all of that. So, and the school board was made aware of that as well when we reviewed the budget. So there was, and that doesn't include, there was a whole host of positions that were requested by the buildings, and you heard that during the presentations, interventionist and another teacher, and we did not entertain any of those, so.
Let me ask you about the Promethean boards. So if I remember correctly, those were purchased at the end of a school year by the school board.
5 to 6 years ago. It was before
I think it was my
time.
first year on budget.
Yeah, I wasn't here at the time, so.
I
yeah.
believe the school board at the time, because they had extra money in their budget, purchased the Promethean boards, and it didn't go through the typical budget cycle. So is this Promethean board replacement in the default, or is it going to be?
It's not in the default.
So it's
no.
going to go into the proposed budget?
It has to go in as replacement equipment under new.
Okay.
So.
And how much are we spending per year on this new equipment?
We haven't really, because we've replaced a handful of them out of existing budget dollars for, say, replacement equipment.
Yeah.
But they're like about $3,000 a pop. So yeah, it's something that's going to have to be addressed, in the next 2 to 3 years, getting on a cycle of replacing them. But I hear you.
Okay.
But
I guess my gripe is that they were purchased outside the budget cycle, and now they're in the budget as replacement equipment, when the budget committee back then really didn't have a say in the creation of
I
this.
wasn't here,
Does that
Joe.
make
I
sense?
take
I know, I
responsibility.
understand. I'm just saying, just something hopefully that won't happen frequently moving forward.
I don't think it's ever happened since I've been on the board, which has been for 5 years.
Perfect.
We have
All
a good track record then together, Jared.
You got a great track record. Okay, we're going to go to page 70. We're at 73. Go ahead, Laura.
I
I just
want
make
to ask a real quick question. Can I?
Yeah, after Laura.
Sure. I can see you.
I just kind of want to make a general statement, for the person watching at home, or the people watching at home. A lot of these lines, because I feel like we quickly go through some of these pages, and it's because a lot of these lines, and I'm just saying this is an outward, thing, because people wouldn't know, are not really things we can change. Retirement,
Yeah.
it's not like we can choose to cut. So when we go through these, and if people are watching, not quite understanding the process, and they're saying, okay, they're just going page by page, and no one's asking, it's because we don't have too much say in particular lines. I just wanted to throw that out there for people that are not
That's a great point. I
understanding.
think anybody that's listening from home, it's probably hard to follow along, and a lot
Right.
of these lines are, especially with personnel costs, are set in stone, either if they were a previously approved, teacher contract we approved last year, salary benefits, things like that. And a lot of the questions we may have are being dealt with in the notes section, so we kind of see what these lines are representing. So we don't ask the question, even though we should, but if you have any questions or you'd like a copy of this, I'm sure Scott can present you a
I'll
copy.
post it out online.
It's all online as well.
It's all online. Just remember that one page as a mess
Yeah,
up. but-
great point,
But
thank
this
you.
stuff-
Yeah. Peter?
Okay, I'm on page 63 of the proposed budget with actuals. I just have a question on 24 budget. I'm sorry, I'm on line 1446, teachers, 1,200 teacher salaries.
Yeah.
How does that go down on default?
Well,
Was there new positions?
Yes, that's the one that we were talking, that was the one. How'd you pick that one out? Yeah, that's the one that we were talking about before.
It was repurposed from the high school,
Yeah.
moved to the
All
elementary
right,
school.
all right, I'm looking at the default and how it works.
So you just got lucky on that?
He's smart.
You must have.
Okay.
Stacy.
So a follow-up question to that, you actually mentioned 3 positions in all prior budgets, and I have the lines written here that were supposed to come out of the high school, and that's the only one. So lines 381, 1094, and line 106 were all positions you said were repurposed from the high school, but there's only one reflected here.
What do you mean by one reflected?
The one he just noticed,
Because the other ones were done in the current year's budget, this is next year's budget.
but you had said like line 381, we're gonna see the transfer position out of the high school decrease. And then on line 1094, you said the same thing, that'll come out of the high school as well,
Hold on,
as a decrease.
I gotta make sure I'm on the right page here. Line 381 on the notes, right?
Yeah, sorry, I've only used the notes one.
That's the 95,000.
That was the.
Nope, that's not the 106 is the 95,000.
Okay, what's the other one that you were?
381,
381. No, that one would not be out of a teacher's salary, that would be out of admin assistant, that would be a 2410 line.
so where would we see it here?
And it could be even a 1,200. So we have administrative assistants that support different areas in the school. So if you're a special education administrative assistant, it would be under the 1,200 line. If you are a regular ed, it would be 1,100. If you were supporting athletics, it would be under the 1,420 line, function code. So again, I apologize. I know this is super confusing because of all the moving pieces, but with respect to the one that we talked about, the first initial question that you had about.
106, the 95,000.
106, right,
Yep.
That's the one that Peter
Peter
just
just
referred
noticed,
to.
yep.
The other one, where that is coming from, it's gonna be the high school, but it could be in multiple, I have to look to see
Okay.
where that, or ask Kate and give you an answer
Yep.
back on that one, because it could be,
Could be a 21,
could be 2410, it could, hold on. So it's not 2410. 1,200. I'll find it.
Okay,
I'll
and the same
get
thing
the
you said
answer.
for 1094, which was the new Dean of Students position. You repurposed a position from the high school, but it doesn't seem to be reflected in the high school numbers. There's no decrease
That's-
of that much money.
That was because that's in our current budget that we're in right now. Right.
But wouldn't you still see a movement from the high school budget?
That would be, this is for next year. In terms of the 25 number,
So we should be seeing a decrease in the 24 number?
you would see a potential decrease in the 24 number. Right. Yeah.
But you can't reflect which one right now. Like, you don't know where it's.
I'd have to go
Okay.
into I oftentimes ask our HR director, because she keeps the track of the movement of people from building to building. So I'd have to ask her which position, because we have position numbers on these two.
Like, and Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I'm just-
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I think what's just difficult is when you see an increase in a section, but then you can't see it reflected in another section. It's hard to kind of wrap your head around, so I hope I'm not
understand
the
that.
only one in the budget committee saying that. Like, that's a huge difference.
I understand what you're saying.
Almost $100,000 for Dean of Students, but you can't reference it, and I'm not just saying, like, it's easy to kind of reference it to something else.
As an example, if I can, Mr. Chair, if you're on the budget with actuals, if you look on line 68, and you have reference line 1563. So again, page 68, reference line 1563, other support salaries. You see that our actuals were 157,000, 168,000, then our actuals went down to 90,000. This is one of those jobs that the school board moved, because it's there now, but now as we go into future budgets, you're not seeing that decrease in the budget,
Right.
default budget now, because it's already been moved.
Yeah.
So I know that's not giving you a one-for-one comparison.
Right.
But I'm just trying to say on a macro level, it's there. And Scott will try to find the one-to-one comparison for you.
And if I don't, then I'll get it to you, by Thursday, or I'll get it to you another time. That one is a little bit harder. It's way hard for me. It's easier for our HR director. This one is, It takes me more than 38 seconds on that one.
Okay, page 74, anything else? Or no, page 75. Go ahead, Sam.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So on page 75, 2152, did the cost of MST tuition just increase really dramatically? Or do we have like more students?
Both.
Okay.
There's both factors there. And since I did talk about it at the last night's school board meeting, I think it would be appropriate because it's a cost item. So last night I advised the school board that I'm having a conversation with the Concord Technical School to determine what their rates are, their offerings are. Superintendent Polkey, I talked to him, and I guess I said that publicly last night. He didn't get a chance to talk to the Manchester superintendent to let them know that we were doing that. So he was going to plan on doing that. But I think it's our, whenever you have a long-term agreement, and this is like a 10-year thing, like you should see what else is out there, and we are going to explore what that looks like. If it's better programming, costs are better, et cetera, we're gonna do that. And as I mentioned on a couple of occasions, I'm doing the same thing on transportation and both regular and special ed transportation to see, there's only 2 or 3 of these providers in the state. They're not like there's not a whole lot of competition, but at least you can talk to different entities to see what, if your pricing is where it should be. And the other thing that we do in Goffstown, in the SAU, is we talk to, you mentioned before about these associations. Well, what some of these associations do is they provide us data. So the association that I belong to, we provide our data with regard to transportation. So I get, through my association, I can find out what other districts are paying for different things. That helps us, make sure that we're in the ballpark when we're negotiating with vendors, so, which is pretty helpful. Can't say that it's with every association, but it's something that at least, we do in the business officials.
Okay, anything else on 75? Can go to 76. Page 77.
I want to try to respond, if I could, to Stacy. Sure. So Stacy, if you, I think you had asked about, these repurposed positions, and the one, if you look at page 68 on the one with notes.
With
okay?
notes?
With notes. And on line 1951.
Yep.
All right. So what I want to kind of point out, and again, you can look at page 68, again, that's line 1951, and what you're going to see is that in FY '23, our budget was $4.7 million for regular ed. We got a lot of teachers that are in that bucket, okay?
Yep.
Including those alt ed teachers. In FY '24, it went to $4,985,000, and then next year, $5 million. So, you should be seeing pretty hefty increases in there, but those, you're not seeing it because they got put in different directions. So that number, again, probably each teaching position, it could be at like $65,000. So what you would have seen is a higher increase in that particular line. The other thing that happened this past hiring season, this year that we're in right now, and it's something that Fred Plett alluded to, and some of you who've been on budget, we talk about this, is called teacher turnover. When you have a teacher that retires, leaves a district, typically you're hiring one that is younger, they're coming in on the lower pay scale. The phenomenon that we saw this year around was that we hired most of our teachers, the average, I think Brian said the other night, 8 to 10 years experience, which is then at a higher cost. And so you're seeing that. So it should be coming from that, these positions are kind of coming from that line number 1951 within there being. So the story that's behind it is just that it should have been $200,000 to $300,000 higher, and now it's in different places.
Anything else on 76? Go to 77.
I wanted to go to 76 just for, this again came up at the school board last night, but it has financial implications. So this would be on line 2193, which is our contracted services, and we do hire police details for events. So we spent a lot on police details this fall because this field was new. We didn't know how many, there's night games, we didn't know how many people would be coming. And we worked with the police department, we rented lights, all these types of things. So this is kind of like, we're trying to find that sweet spot of making sure that we know that we can't have just a single police officer at these events, at a football game, but whether, the number that we used was 4, and the number is probably 2 or 3, but that has to be with consultation with the chief of police and others. But we didn't know what the parking situation would be, we didn't know the size of the crowd, so that number that you're seeing there is a higher number than in the past, but not what we spent more this year, just so you know, probably like $3,000 or $4,000 more in police details because we just didn't know. So just want that to be out there.
Okay. Page 77, anything else? Page 78.
And by the way, this is an area where we cut, there's a lot of requests for athletics to and there were some that may even be justified by actuals, and we didn't give too many increases on any of these, what's called function 1420.
Page 79. It's not a whole lot here.
But this is, page 79 is also important because our previous GAP director, he's now our curriculum coordinator, Kurt McDermott, he was able to have the state pay for a lot of the Goffstown adult education through using their rules, so kudos to him, and he was able to decrease this budget last year by a very sizable amount of money, so.
Go ahead, Laura.
Thank you. Scott, when you say we cut, certain athletic stuff, is we at the school board level? What is the we there?
We at the administration level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 80. Because you have kids.
Right.
Is there staff, like the staff fee, or?
What page? I'm just.
We're on page 81. I was just looking at
apologize.
the AP testing.
So this is another one of these examples where we might front something, but then we're getting reimbursed on the backside, kind of like what Kurt talked about, the high set tests. And then there are some that we do. There's some situations where students cannot.
I'm sure it's a need-based thing.
Needs, right. Yep.
Okay. I mean, they're like $70 a test, right?
At least
Something
90,
like that.
95.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not cheap.
All right, page 80. page 84.
So line 2432, I'll
Yeah.
take that note out. That was an area that we cut like $25,000 there. So if I have to take the note out,
Which line's cut?
2432, it said, that the note says collaborative space furniture for old computer lab area. And I took the dollar amount out, but I didn't take the note out, so I'll do that.
And that decrease was for the subscriptions we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 85. Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I want to go back to page 81.
Yep.
Line 2340. I see it's guidance, new equipment, sound field systems. Is it for 504 planned students or 504 students?
504, educational accommodations.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
so it was new spending in *24, and it's into your default now that so you
Well,
need to
It's
replace.
special ed.
So the situation that we have is that we have more numbers of students who have hearing challenges. And when you're in an elementary classroom, you can move a system from a first grade classroom to a second grade classroom. When you get to Goffstown High School or even Mountain View, they're going all over. So not to mention the fact that having adequate sound in a classroom assists all students.
Yep.
So we're trying to retrofit 4 or 5 classrooms every year with these systems so that we won't have to be moving them. Right now, we're moving stuff around.
Okay, yeah, I remember this conversation.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the adaptive systems for folks. Because it was new last year, it just went into the default.
Right.
It's part of this section now, because your goal is to equip the whole high school.
Yep, or the majority of it, yeah.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay, anything else on, we're on 85. Anything else on 85? Go to 86. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, is there a working definition of these dues and fees, or memberships? Is there anywhere we could go and find out more about those?
Okay. Okay, so the NEAS and C, that's like the accreditation, so that would be, I know some of them. So 2490, so that's the accrediting agencies that are used. They come out every 5 years, Jared? I'm trying to remember. I think it's 5, where they take a look at all of your curriculum, and it's really necessary for higher education if you're looking to go to college. They want to make sure that a school is accredited. It's also part of our area agreement with New Boston, so we have to have an accredited school at Goffstown High School and one at Mountain View. The Mountain View one is called NELMS, NELMS, and that's for middle schools. It's the same agency. The NHASP, New Hampshire Association of School Principals. The one on 2493 is ASCD, that is curriculum. NH, I don't know some of the other ones. I'll have to get back to you on
Yeah,
that.
no rush, I was just curious on those, yeah.
Okay. I just don't, some of them I know because I know it, the others like if there's a music one, I don't know that. That's what I know.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Okay, page 87. Go ahead, Sam.
Thank you. 2504, there's that increase of 8,700.
That's for physics day that we chatted
Oh,
about
okay.
during the presentation.
Okay, well, I was like looking at everything and I couldn't match the number. But thank you.
Yep, physics day entrance fee. Okay. Page 88. Page 89. Page 90.
Joe? Chair?
Yep, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back to page 88. It was line 2544. There's an HVAC service contract of 10,000. But then I move forward and I see, I think on 89, there's row 2562, I see repairs. So is that service contract just, can you explain more about that contract?
Yeah, so we have like HVAC, boilers, things like that.
Yeah.
You have to do like maintenance on those systems. Changing out filters, but doing like maintenance on your mechanical system.
Yeah.
So that's what the maintenance portion would be. And then the repairs, if all of a sudden something, obviously if something breaks, then you have to have the funds to pay for whatever system failed or part or.
Okay.
Does that assist you? So they do preventative maintenance on
No,
our
I know.
systems. Yeah, there's just a lot of mechanicals here.
Yeah, I'm still wrestling with, but yeah, I think it helps me. Thank you.
Oh, Laura.
I actually have a follow-up because Brian started to ask the question and now I have. So does the service contract not include these other maintenance and repairs? Is that what we're,
So,
because there's two lines that, there's the repair line for 1,200 and the contract line for 10,000.
right, so one of them, so we do about $10,000 of preventative maintenance.
Like in-house versus the contracted company.
No, so
No, it's contract.
Blue Wind is the company that we're using right now. They will come in and they will do maintenance, annual maintenance. I don't know if you have a boiler, like
Yeah, no,
you
I get-
have
I
to
get
do
what-
maintenance on that. And then if there's something that's wonky with your boiler, then you have to fix it. So in this world, I got to pay one out of one line to check it out every year. And then if there's something that has to get fixed because of it, then I got to pay it out of another line. Does that make sense? Yes, that's what they want me to do in terms of the accounting of it.
So it's It's the notes again that I'm looking too much into, because it's
Yeah.
the accounting of it versus like it's all one thing,
All right, I'm sorry.
for my purposes, for our purposes, yeah. Right.
Yes. Okay, so
Well,
is there
in
any?
your defense, it looks like it's in there twice.
Yeah, that's why I was.
Well, it's good to clarify too.
Yeah.
You know. Frank?
Well, if you look at the account codes, the only difference between the two lines is one of them is 431, which is maintenance. The other is 432, which is repairs, so they look almost alike. You're right.
Okay, is there anything else? Page 91. That's going to wrap up the high school. Scott, do we have food service?
Yeah,
Where's that?
it's in your packet.
Did I lose it?
There's only a couple of pages, it should be in there, I think. What is it? Food service, had two smaller ones.
Don't we not go through it because we can't make changes to food service?
You can make changes. Yeah,
It's part of the warrant article budget, so.
it's part of the budget.
I don't think I have it.
I don't think that's it.
I don't have that either.
You kidding? Okay, hold on. Did I leave it in my car?
We got CIP in here. That's not gonna do us any good.
All right, so here's the deal. I have this piece in my trunk, so let me go ahead.
Yeah, let's recess the thing for 5 minutes. We'll, or 8 minutes. We'll resume at 8 o'clock.
Restroom.
back. Budget Committee's back at 7:58, 2 minutes early, because we're prompt. For the minute taker, Olivia Welcher left. She's excused the rest of the meeting. So we have the food service budget with notes. I'm not going to go page by page. I'm going to give the committee a few minutes to look over this. It's 6 pages. There's no impact on the town because it's a self-sustaining fund, so I'm just going to publicly pause the meeting for 3 minutes, allow everybody to look at it, and ask questions of Jared, Scott, or if is there any discussion, okay? And just a note for the public, a lot of these increases, it is a self-sustaining fund, but there are some increases based on inflation, food costs, cost to get product, things like that. But that is all covered by the sale of food.
Yeah, I mean, that was really,
there wasn't a lot there for that.
the majority of the increases are due to, Megan put forward a 4% increase in food costs over the FY23 actuals. For those of you who don't know, Goffstown is part of a food purchasing consortium with, it's a lot of other school districts, so we get good pricing on most of the food that we purchase. Where we could decrease, we did. So we have a vending machines here at the high school where we were lease purchased. We now own those vending machines. So that came off. That was about I think it was like a $6,000 decrease on line 171. But there are some things that did increase in price, Mr. Chair, and she did reflect those. And like you said, those, because the increase in expenditures will be offset by the charges that we pass along to the student/parent. So we try to be responsible with that too, but just like your own grocery bills, we have to adjust, keep the budget the same.
Right. Okay, anything on food service? Samantha?
So I'm on page 6, line 153. And I noticed that those are the salaries have decreased from the 24 years to the 25 days. But the health insurance has increased $14,000.
So I think this was the contract we approved last year. It was a food service contract. I think we raised the starting rate of a lot of our cooks.
Well, the salary has decreased, but the price of health insurance, I guess
it's district-wide, that line's been going up.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, it's still really shocking, the amount of health insurance increase. That's all. Especially because it seems like we have less people.
Well, and some of our cooks wouldn't necessarily cover for full health insurance if they're not full-time. So it just depends on how many full-time positions we have in food service. All right, anything else for food service? Okay, so that completes our evaluation of the school side of the budget. We have this budget for as long as we need it. We haven't looked at all at the select board, but I anticipate that will be coming in the next few weeks once you send that to us.
I think
And we
you should
have-
have it. The proposed budget, you should have this next week.
Okay, so, and we have a meeting on the calendar, I forget which one. I gotta get an update on that. The 16th, so that will be when we start that. So, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel the Thursday meeting and the Tuesday meeting. And I'd like to keep a hold of the budget, but I know that Jared's about to make a motion, so.
No, instead of comment, I'll make a question then. As we've reviewed the budget with the food service and the special reserve fund, I'd like to actually move the school board budget of the total appropriation of $55,250,768 to public session so that we can then hear from the public and make whatever deliberations on specific lines we'd like to change from our public interest. Now that we've reviewed them as a board and concluded all of that review.
I'll second that motion.
Jared just made it.
It's this number, not that number. That's the.
I want to make sure the number's right.
You did, I think we gave that one.
55, oh, yeah, no, 55,719,900. Yeah, that's the one I did.
Okay, so there's a motion by Jared. Is there a second? Lauren Dukas seconds it. Discussion. Go ahead, Peter.
I think we need to take a look at everything all together and see where we stand. This is a lot of money in this budget, and I know there's some increases in the town side, and I think we need to look at it as a collective. I understand Jared's interest to get that pushed out there so nobody else gets another look at it, but I think if we have the time and we need to take another look at it, that's what we should be doing.
Jared.
My response to that is exactly what the public session's for, so that we can commingle everything to look at what it's going to be for the town and school. But I don't want to bring Scott to every meeting because we might want to come back to the school board budget and actually look at those items. So I understand what we're saying, where there might be some decisions that need to be made, but are we going to be making school board budget decisions during the select board review process? And if the answer is no, then why are we not moving forward to public comment or public session to then have those conversations?
No, or are you asking me a question?
Well, that was my response to it, but feel free.
You know, I think we need to take, as I said, I think once we take the number, ours, yours, as one town, and take a look at it and say, you know, maybe we can cut a little bit here and move a little bit there, do something a little bit different. I don't think we should be just pushing this out. We just ran through it. We ran through it in 2 days or 3 days. And I think if we need to look at it all in one big piece.
So when would we do that?
You got the whole month of December.
Because that's what public session's for.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna let others weigh in. I'm gonna let others weigh in.
We did that, we've always done it in the past, and done it at the end of all the budgets, when they're all sitting on the table here. The CIP, the town budget, the school budget, and that gives us a chance to look at the whole picture of everything, and look at the tax rate we're gonna have. And if it's what we don't want, you know, we have a chance then to change anything.
Laura.
I just want to clarify that I understand what this means, which would be that we no longer are discussing this, and then it's just brought to deliberate with the.
That's not accurate.
So, my understanding is, unless we motion to reconsider moving it to public hearing, we send it to public hearing.
Right.
We don't discuss. We can discuss it, but we can't make any changes
Okay,
until
that's what
after
I
the
meant,
public
I guess.
hearing.
Sorry, yeah.
So I think that's kind of where the discussion is.
Okay.
Lauren.
Thank you. I seconded the motion to move it forward because we got really comprehensive presentations, and we can see it even from select board and school board presentations, and now we come to line-by-line deliberation. There's a lot of redundant questions, not because we're not paying attention, but because there's been some time, oh yes, that's that, oh yes, that's this. We're gonna wait into December to come back at it and say, well, what was that again? What was that again? I feel like it's just, we're using people's time in an unwise fashion. I feel like we went through it line by line, and this isn't the last call. If anyone had motions, we had some pretty robust discussions. So I think we looked into it, but I think we should move it along. If we stayed the night to get through even the food service one, I think it's ready for the next step. Also, in reflection of the school board cut out, we didn't even see 1.3 million of requested increases. So I think it's, where else are we going to cut it right now, even if we see the big picture? The school board's budget's the school board's, the select board's the select board's. We got to deal with them as separate entities, not well, it's one cohesive unit for the taxpayers, but there's a reason these budgets are separated. They should be treated as such.
Thank you, Lauren. Stacy?
What is the rush? What's the rush?
Jared?
That's how we've done it all the time.
Just continue to do it just because that's what
Oh,
we've
I
always done
understand.
it.
But the thing is, but it's taking his time, so any discussion that we have for specific line items that we might want to open up, I need to have him here to actually talk about that. So it's looking at the time, but it's making sure that we were diligent in what we looked at. So when we talk about moving it to public session, we're going to be not only looking at this, we're going to be looking at select board, we're going to be looking at CIP, we're going to be looking at everything. And that's where we kind of do that mingling of, we have our tax rate too high, we need to bring it down. And then we vote to recommend or not recommend, and then it goes to deliberative. So we're not just saying we have a one-shot meeting to look at this and do it. We have two meetings. We have the public session, we make changes, we vote to recommend, not recommend, it goes to deliberative, which again, that's another fun aspect. But this is the way that we've done it every 5 years of, we present a budget, we go through the budget, we've talked about the budget in each line item individually, we're very comprehensive on it. Let's put it to bed so that our administrator doesn't need to maintain, and let's make sure that we focus on the next budget, which would be the select board or CIP.
Peter?
I'm not sure which history he's talking about, but we have, in the past, gone into December still reviewing budgets. So to say that at the beginning of November, our budget season's done at the school, and we move it into January, it's not how we've always done it in the past. Richard will tell you the same thing. We've been here a long time, and for Jared to say this is how it's been is not right. It may have been recently, but that's not how it's been in the past. And I don't think you're going to rush into a $55 million budget when you have, somebody can go home and say, I'm going to look at this a little bit and then send Scott, help me out with this. I think we don't want to get rushed. I don't want to get rushed. I don't want to get rushed on the town budget. We've already pushed that out, working on it. They wanted to do that a couple weeks ago. I said, no, I want to spend more time on this. We have a responsibility, and it's not, responsibility isn't just to hurry up and get this done. That's not our responsibility.
Laura?
So, I'm not sure I have a strong feeling either way. It's just interesting to me that we didn't really have much discussion or anything to say about any of it. I don't know how that would change, just among us moving forward. That's all, just that comment.
I understand. I hesitate to do this when we don't have a full committee who hasn't weighed in. I mean, we did have 2 members leave, so that's also part of it. So, is there any other comment on this?
I think for me, I want to wait. I want to further digest things. I know, I respect your comment about not having a lot of conversation, but I feel a little pressured. I don't want to be pressured into making a motion to move forward. I'd rather have a little more time to further digest it and weigh in. So.
Okay, and if we don't meet Thursday and Tuesday, those were days that Scott planned on being here anyways, so I think if we maybe have him come back at a meeting at a later date, you'll still be net -1 meeting, right?
That's how it works, right?
That's the plus side.
Richard hasn't spoken, I'm going to go Richard and then Lauren.
And actually, if we wanted to put in some, predictability for Scott, maybe have him plan to come back at the last town meeting. And then we could take up any additional school board business then.
Lauren?
Thank you. Could someone, I'm sorry, I don't know this off the top of my head, could someone remind me of the timeline that we have this, it needs to go to the next step, because then we'll be, school board, we're going to be looking at the school board, the select board budget. I know there are dates on, it has to be done by now.
So we have
Danielle gave you
scheduling. I have a combined notice. So I have, today is the 7th. We have a Thursday meeting. We have a Tuesday meeting, the 14th, if needed. And then we have town budget deliberations on the 16th, the 28th of November, and the 30th of November. And then we have additional 2 meetings on the 5th and the 7th for town budget deliberations. So we have, at the latest, we're definitely meeting on the 30th of November, up to that, and then 2 other meetings if needed. So we're moving it to public hearing, but that meeting is in January. So we have the ability to hold on to this through Christmas if we want to.
I thought there was a more stringent cutoff
There-
because
there
the
is.
town
It,
has to do things.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was in Danielle's, in terms of the dates that you have to have, your public hearing, et cetera. Now, what happens oftentimes, and
Yep.
Peter, I don't know where I know that the town has 2 or 3 collective bargaining agreements. So the budget committee has to weigh in on whether they, recommend, don't recommend, and there's certain deadlines there. They're in January. But we both have experienced situations where the negotiating teams are getting deals at the last day. And then this committee is holding an emergency, holding a last-minute meeting to meet the statutory deadline, but that's in early January. I don't know, Danielle, I can't find it with me, I think it's in my office, but Danielle did provide that.
For the latest cutoff date, so you could properly warn the.
Right.
We had at a school district meeting, we had a collective bargaining agreement given to us that night.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's very loosey-goosey when it gets to that, but there is when meetings, the public hearing scheduled, everything has to be in by then.
Lauren?
Yes, sir. Thank
All
you.
set?
Yeah.
Richard?
Yeah, it looks like that date is January 9th, based on the calendar that we got. That's the last day to provide notice for the public hearing.
Yep, so we have to do that. Not that we would ever need it that long, but we have that long. Stacy?
Can I motion that we take the vote?
Yeah, no, are we ready to vote?
Move the question, is that what you want to do?
Yes.
We'll just, instead of voting, I'll just call the question.
Thank you. I didn't know the verbiage. Sometimes I forget
No
the verbiage. Motion.
So, all those in favor of Jared's motion to move the budget to public hearing, please raise your hand. I see Jared, Lauren, and Melanie. And then those opposed. Everyone else that's present opposed it. Any abstentions? No. Okay, so the motion fails. So we don't have to, so I will communicate with Scott, but we're probably going to do some
Just
revised.
for
Go
your
ahead.
knowledge, we have an SAU board meeting on December 7th.
Okay.
And
That's
we would be unavailable, just so you're aware.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
So you're canceling Thursday and Tuesday?
No meeting Thursday, no meeting Tuesday.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Stacy.
On Thursday.
No meeting Thursday, unless you want to come. There's a lot of books to read.
The rest of this week, no meeting next week.
So we won't
There is a meeting on the 16th.
Yep.
Thursday.
that
That's the
Thursday.
school.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right, unanimous.